Hi guys, thanks for clicking. Christy here with Just Saying. Let's make another Christmas card. Today I am using, I'm going to make this card here that's got some blue tones and Christmas trees. I'm using the stamp set and punch from the Festival of Trees Stampin' Up stamp set. The greeting at the bottom says, "May the timeless message of Christmas fill your heart and home with joy today and throughout the coming year." And that is from the Joyful Christmas stamp set. I featured this one a few weeks ago using the poinsettia that's here with the Joyful Christmas Wishes sentiment, but I'm using the other sentiment in it. So this card is a little trickier than it looks, and I will show you my boo-boo. First, I cut out, or punched, the Christmas trees out of this Bermuda Bay cardstock, and I thought I could just wing it by punching it, and then it was all over the place. So I drew myself a template. This is the front of the cardstock. It's just on paper, and I've given myself dimensions. The top bit here is 1/4 of an inch or close to it, and then I can never remember what the 8ths and 16ths of an inch are, so I just marked myself that it's the 2.5 inch wide plus 2, so 2/8, so another 1/4. So, but not 1/4. So it's not 1/4. See, that's where I get confused. What I mean by 2.5 plus 2 is using my Stampin' Trimmer. Here's my 2.5 mark on my trimmer, and then I go up 2 little notches. So it's halfway between 2.5 and 2 3/4. I can't do the math on that, never can, so I go with my strength, and I just put 2.5 plus 2. The bottom half is approximately 1 1/4, and that allows for the sentiment to be right down here, and that's, as I said, from the Joyful Christmas stamp set. So I'm going to get started with more on how I stamped and punched the Christmas trees. Here was my boo-boo. So I took another piece of copy paper and I cut out what is this section here, and then I punched the trees out of this section. They're fairly equal, but not quite. They're close enough. I'm using this as kind of a jig. So I'm putting a little bit of temporary adhesive on some of the pieces back here, and then I take my 2.5 plus 2 sheet of cardstock, and this is 2.5 plus 2 by 5.5, so it's going to go across the whole width of the card. I'm going to just line up my jig with the edges of the cardstock. Get them fairly close, and use my punch. Now I want to line up my punch with the white. That's going to punch out an extra bit and just punch my tree. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It wasn't doing that earlier. Oh well, make sure this works. And up a bit. I have a feeling part of it is because my punch has decided to break today, but it's still usable for now. So these extra bits of trees, I'm going to figure out what to do with them for another project. So I'm keeping them in a little container and removing my jig. Get to see what this looks like. I can already tell it's off a little bit, but they're fairly even in their placement. That's fine. I'm going to start assembling this one. Actually, I'm going to assemble and stamp and just get this to go. Okay, so colors I'm using that are, I haven't even told you about the pattern paper. The pattern paper that I'm using There's a few different ones. There's this one that I've only got this little section of, so that's going to be one card. And then there's some of this. These are pieces of designer series paper that I've had for a while, from the Winter Frost designer series paper, and in it there were colors of Bermuda Bay and Island Indigo. So using those as my inks, I'm going to use the Island Indigo ink for the sentiment. And seeing the sentiment, the M is here for the May, for the beginning of the greeting. I'm just going to ink this up. And in the center, lining up the bottom of the stamp with the bottom of the cardstock to hopefully be straight. Push down even pressure and up. Pretty good. And now I can adhere my designer series paper to the front of the Bermuda Bay cardstock. Oh, that was temporary. I accidentally used my temporary adhesive. Using the permanent adhesive this time. I'm going to give myself about 1/4 of an inch from the top to the bottom. My designer series paper, I cut it all to be the first layer of a card, so 5 1/4 by 4. For this project I've trimmed it down so that it doesn't quite meet the edges, but then the width is exactly the same as the Island Indigo that I'm using. So on some of my cards I've had to kind of hide this edge here. So I'm just going to adhere now the Island Indigo to the rest of it. Putting all of the edges. And I actually just want to line up the top of the paper with the top of the cardstock edge to edge as well, because I'm doing a little bit of Island Indigo for baker's twine to cover off this joint here. So that's pretty much the front of the card. I'm using, like I said, the Festival of Trees stamp set. So I've punched out 2 white Whisper White cardstock pieces. I'm going to use the tree that has a bunch of circles in it in Bermuda Bay for this one. Get it inked really well, lining up the tree with the cutout and pushing down, especially in the middle. Perfect. This one can come off. I'll clean it later. That one can come off. And my fuzzy tree is going on. And there.
Hello.
I have my assistant here. It's a Sunday, so she's home on the weekend getting this video filmed. I'm going to do another layer to this fuzzy tree. I just want to call it the fuzzy tree because I don't know how else to describe it. It's the one with its most tree-like. It's, I've been told, like a blue spruce. This little bit here is going to be the, I'm not sure if I've just said it, Island Indigo, but the garland for the tree. So excuse my head, I'm just going to line up the corners for the edges of the garland with the edges of the cutout. Okay, thanks. And that's it for stamping. So 2 trees and a sentiment. These are going to go aside, and I'm going to now adhere. No, I'm not. I'm going to take my Island Indigo baker's twine and wrap this around about 3 times. 1, 1, 2, 3. Now, as I've said in my previous videos, I cannot do a bow to save my life, but when I tie this one, I'm just looping one of the lengths of baker's, actually for this one I'm doing both, underneath, giving myself kind of a base of a knot, and then tying it. Well, that didn't work. Did it work? It worked. It's not how I normally do it, but whatever. We're on camera, so it's going to be completely different, isn't it? And I'm just spreading out the baker's twine a little bit. And that actually didn't work. Under. Okay, that worked a bit better. I tip the cardstock upside down, letting the baker's twine just dangle so that when I get my scissors in there, I can get a fairly clean cut, and I'm not going to accidentally snip the extra bits of baker's twine that I want to stay on the cardstock. Underneath an elbow here, I have some pre-cut heavyweight or 100-pound Stampin' Up! Whisper White cardstock. I have cut this so that it's 5.5 by 4 1/4, scoring it at 4 1/4. It's going to be a landscape card, and I'm putting the Bermuda Bay directly on the front of the Whisper White, so the Bermuda Bay will be the whole front of the card, like that, but with the white writing surface. So I'm going to head back now, jump back to my punched out images. I'm going to just put dimensionals on the back side here. There they are. I'm using 3, 2 at the base and 1 at the top. Except for this one I have done 3 down the middle. I didn't like how the garland on this one worked. Instead of flipping it over and stamping it again, I'm just going to use one that I've already pre-done. So 2 on the base, 1 on the top, and then removing the dimensionals. This is now going to go in the middle of the 2 that are punched. And I'm using some little rhinestones that are colored. Now I know these ones are from the dollar store. They have an adhesive backing on them. So I just need to find, that's probably a lot of bright and shiny. I just need to find some blue ones here. So I'm just going to separate the adhesive and place it on the tree with the dots. And last one. So here's today's Christmas card using Festival of Trees, Joyous Christmas, Island Indigo, Bermuda Bay, and some Christmas trees. So thank you for watching. I hope you tune in next week for my next Christmas week of Christmas. Thank you.